We are naturally wired for language learning. In fact, when you look at human evolution itself, possibly the greatest human achievement has been one, the development of language, and then the fact that we know how to learn it. When you have a child who's born, you don't worry about the child actually learning the mother tongue. You never think about it. Because just through the communication that the child is having with or rather the adults are having communication with the child is actually interacting without necessarily understanding the language, but at some point of time, the language starts making sense. And eventually the child himself or herself masters the language. Now, what has happened is that this very, very natural and easy process has been broken down into its parts. And then, you try to reconstruct it through a very, very logical process of language teaching in the classroom. This actually makes it extraordinarily difficult for the child to learn a language. So I could look at my own example, born into a Tamil family, and my native place is Kerala, but born and brought up in Mumbai. So this naturally lends to me access to Malayalam, Tamil, Hindi and Marathi, and before you know it, you're proficient in these 4 languages. And because your parents speak English, you learn English as well. This is not something that is considered an achievement because of the fact that many of my colleagues also had mastery over 3, 4, 5 languages living in Mumbai, coming from different parts of the country. But now contrast this with the fact that I learned French for 5 years, very good school, very good teachers. I worked very hard. I got 99 on 100, and I can't speak 5 sentences of French. This is something that I took on through this artificial process of learning words, meaning, grammar, then short sentences. And in the process, I could only do what was there in the syllabus. The idea that language is not a subject never entered my head. The idea that language is a skill actually never entered my head, and it was never offered to me in that manner. It was offered to me in the form of the syllabus and then an assessment at the end of it. So all the time your focus was on moving from syllabus to assessment. When we talk about language learning, you can only consider yourself proficient in that language if you can think in that language. And this is something that we must understand, that in India, we tend to do this quite effortlessly and we don't make a big deal about it. Yet when we look at our formal pedagogy, we have actually borrowed from monolingual cultures, monolingual societies. How do you actually even imagine this, what I would call this abomination, that you learn language from somebody who has never learned a second language efficiently? This is why some of these terminologies like English as a second language, English as a foreign language, all of these things have emerged largely because of the fact that our formal system has never effectively delivered language learning. We could reimagine this, we could reinvent this, largely based on our own experience of multilingualism. How does a child who moves from one part of the country to another part of the country, learn a new language in 3 months? Let's say a child moves from Chandigarh to Madurai in Tamil Nadu. In a matter of about 3 to 4 months, this child would be functionally proficient in this language. And yet you try teaching a Tamil child in Madurai Hindi, and you will find that after 10 years, this child has passed exams but does not really speak the language. The biggest tragedy is the fact that this child does not enjoy Hindi as a language. We really need to look at ourselves. We really need to look at our own successful models of language acquisition and remodel our language learning process using some of these ideas. The critical element here is something that we alluded to in an earlier question, where we say that the moment you think logically about language learning, you are completely destroying the possibility. But the moment you just look at it as a natural ability and say that we simply provide you the opportunity and the experience of that language, you will realize that language learning happens effortlessly, beautifully, and most importantly, this child loves this new language that he or she has acquired. Namaste.